go ahead and get started. Let's see. For some reason, I don't have any yeses. Oh, I may have one now. Gosh, thank you, Elijah. You always pop in there pretty quick. So I still got a couple other people who haven't sent me a yes. If you could send me a yes. So we're going to go over a bunch of stuff today. As we're going over this, if you have any question, you want more detail, you've got anything, go ahead and ask it in chat, and I'd be glad to answer that. So I'm going to go, So I'm going to go ahead and get started here. We just lost a couple people. They probably rebooted, so we might want to give them just a couple minutes here. So let's all be a little patient, and we'll give it a couple minutes before we get started. I'm wondering, Susanna, do you have any new jokes that you could type up in chat? I guess that's a no. Does anyone else have any really quick, easy jokes they want to tell? Probably not. Okay. We lost a couple people. I think we got them back. Can you hear me now? Did the reboot work? In particular, Alex, can you hear me? Okay. I'm not sure yes, Elijah can hear me, but Alex cannot hear me. So I know from my end it's working. Usually it's somebody's speakers or whatever isn't working. So if you can't hear me, that's kind of tough. So you can always listen to this recorded version at a later date. So I'm going to go ahead and get started before we get too late. We're already at 11:09. And I don't want to take too much time of people. So we're going to start at the RecCheck report. Anyone who's attended our webinars over the past weeks is gonna, some of it'll be repeat, some of it'll be new, but we'll try to point out little different things and some new little tricks on how to get around on your site. It's always a surprise to me because I don't know which reports we're using, and that's good. because it keeps it fresh. So let's go ahead and first review a RecCheck report. I actually have two of them, but I think I'll go ahead and review this one. Oh, thank you, Alex. Well, that's okay. You can at least send that, so hopefully you can hear enough. So this is our standard 1 mile radius RecCheck report. We have the largest environmental database in the whole nation, even bigger than the 800-pound gorilla EDR. They always say they have the best data and the most data, and yeah, I don't think it's true, but it doesn't matter. The point being is we've got every record that we could find and is available, and we've got 28 historical sources. And we'll go over that a little bit as we're going through, just so you know what databases we have. But to use one of these reports, you always want to make sure you're on the correct site. So that's our site, Erie Strait. I love Erie Strait. I've done this before. So the first thing you want to do is open the bookmarks. And again, verify that it's your subject property. So you want to use the 16th of a mile. This is very clear. And you can see right away that where the star is where your site is. Okay, cool, Alex. So hopefully, maybe go to Starbucks. So anyway, if you've never used one of our radius search reports, at a glance, you're going to tell whether your site has a problem or not. So right away, you see our site's listed in number 1, and it's a yellow. Well, what does yellow mean? Yellow means that you need to review the details on that site and see if it's a concern to your site, because the agency where we got the information from did not provide us with enough information to determine whether the site's a concern or not, whether it's open, closed, anything like that. And so yellow really isn't necessarily bad, but it isn't necessarily good. It just means we didn't have enough data to let you know. Red is bad to the bone. It's a Superfund site, open case, open lust, can be all kinds of things, but it is a bad thing. And this is adjacent to your subject property, and this is considered immediately adjacent. Now, you have an area search, which is green down here, and remember, this report, you can learn to review it for your site any way you want. We got here trying to verify we're working on the right site, that it's plotted correctly. If it isn't plotted correctly, remember, we'll rerun a report for you free if you want to move that star. So in our order system, when you're ordering and you put in an address and plot your site, all you have to do is click on the map that comes up before confirming the site, and it'll move that star to that location. So if you want to tweak that star or whatever when you order, you should go ahead and do it. It's a very easy thing, and make sure you accurately cover your site. If you have a really big site, you may want to expand the radius, because really you're trying to get a mile around the property boundaries of your site. Now, if you've got a very small lot, let's say it's 100 by 30 or 100 by 50 or 100 by 100, that's pretty small. You're probably fine. But if you have a really big area, you're going to want to expand the radius. And we charge $5 every quarter mile. Not a big deal. Usually 1/4 mile does it. Now, if you want to do an area search, An area search actually goes a mile from the perimeter of the property in all directions. So it goes from the parcel map or the boundaries of the property that you usually supply us. A lot of people use that. That costs $99 versus $74 for the basic 1 mile radius. An area search is $99. Now, let's say you're working on a utility corridor, or you're working on a roadway, or you're working on, I don't know, some big long property that's 10, 15 miles long. That's a corridor search. And that's the same as an area search. We kind of draw out this big, long rectangle, but we go a mile on either side of that roadway or railway or whatever it is, electric utility lines. And then you get a good search of the whole property all the way along. Keep in mind, in a corridor search, really the only thing that's going to interest you, because you're going to get a lot of data, especially if you're in a major city, you're mainly interested in what's adjacent to you. Okay, so this is how I review one of these. First, I go here. The next thing I want to do, I've verified my site. I see my site's listed. Normally I'd want to jump and see what that listing is, but maybe I'm not ready to do that yet. So I'm going to go to executive summary. And right away, if I'd put in a project number, it'd be here, it'd be in the report, so it makes it nice. I've got my coordinates. I also see that my site's listed, and I can click on here and go to the details, and I'll do that in a minute. I'm looking to see what the flood zone is to see if it's going to be a concern in my site, and it isn't. And then I've got the soils type, and so that's kind of good. I understand there's coverage of my site, 87, 94, 1906, 33, 44, 46. That's pretty cool. And then there was no search radius expansion. Probably should have been on this site, but it doesn't matter. I've got my soil type, loaming land, hydric, moderately well drained. That means it's probably sands. I'm right next to water. And I've got 307 listings. I don't know why we called it occurrences. We're going to change that to listings in our next update. But it's pretty sweet. So I'm going to go back right now, and I'm going to go right back to the executive summary, and I'm going to click on the detail for my site. Now, I really want to look at this. And I can see right away that my site's an RV dealer. That's the kind of thing you want to pick up right away, because being an RV dealer or boat dealer or recreational vehicle dealer or whatever is important. And I'm starting to build a case. And when you're looking at all this stuff or writing a report, you're making notes on something before you write it in the report. So you're gathering facts like a private investigator. And that's all really important information. So you're going to look at all the details on your site. And I gathered a lot of information. So the one other thing I'm going to look at right away, and this is really going to help me write the report, is I'm going to go back to the 16th mile of a map. Because when you get in a real crowded area, let's go to the quarter mile. Let's now go a mile. Well, the mile map is really worthless, except for you've got these outlying areas of contamination. But they're basically worthless, right? So right away, I know my site is one of those industries that could be a potential problem. And that's the kind of thing you're looking for in these database searches. Now, the next thing is the red on the 2, because you want to know if an adjacent site could have caused your site contamination. And right away, I see that it's listed in all facilities using hazardous materials. It's not a big deal. It has an ERP open. Well, what is ERP? And what is ERP open? Well, first of all, I'm looking, it's 2 feet higher than me. And the direction of the groundwater, which was pretty easy to determine, is going to be, let me give you a little better line, probably about that way. So if it's that way, this site is over here. And it's got an open case. So right away, I'm thinking potential from adjacent site contamination. And that's probably going to be in my phase 1. So now let's go back to that thing. It said ERP open. Well, what's ERP open? So the really quick thing to do is go down here and read ERP open. Bureau of Remediation and Redevelopment Tracking System. Environmental Repair Program Open Cases, aka contaminated lands or environmental action. That's a concern right away. You're probably going to want to make a note that when you do the field inspection, you might as well go to the agency and look at the file, because you're probably going to need to pull that file to do a good phase 1. Now, you want more detail. If you didn't get a good enough explanation, we put a complete detail in their contact number and everything else out in the cloud. We did that on purpose because we got so much data, we're trying to shrink our reports. So as you can see, our report's already 322 pages. So if we didn't shrink the data a little bit to make it a little easier for you, it would be a problem. So we looked at 2. We've already identified a whole bunch of things. You've got it. So now the next thing is you want to go to potential areas of concern. This is areas. These are Superfund sites usually. You can see in this, and I'm going to zoom in on this a little bit. Yeah, my computer's just way too quick for me. And let's go over here. So here's our subject site. The only thing we have of an area of concern is this A1 and the wharf. And we probably want to look at that. And there's a couple things we're going to look at real quick. But you can see these over here are kind of like on this point. Well, they're not going to get over to here because you've got a waterway here. And everything's flowing that way. So let's go ahead and really quickly look at this. But how easy is it to interpret this report and see what kind of problems you have? If these were on this side, I'd be looking at them. If any of these were like in here area, I'd want to look at them too, because remember, groundwater goes this way. Okay, and that groundwater can be determined many ways. A lot of people use topography. That's not super accurate, but it works. A rule of thumb is groundwater always goes towards a water source, river, bay, that kind of thing. So you can always look at that. You can also look at file reviews to get immediate area groundwater. So let's go ahead and go to the 16th of a mile radius map again. Remember how easy it is to get to these things and get around. And so right away we see it's A1, 4, and 5. Let's do A1 first. So A1, what is A1? A1 is the wharf. So it was opened in 1999. It was closed in 2000 or something. I'd like to know more about that. And that's all we have on that site. Let's see if A1's anything else. No. So let's look at 4 and 5 now. So really, this has piqued our interest. I might want to do a file review on it, but I'm not so sure it's that big a deal, and I'm going to show you why. 4 and 5 is historic auto repair. And 5 is custom car repair, a facilities listing. And they're 4 feet lower than my site. So am I really concerned about that? I'm not so sure I'm really concerned about that. Let's go to 3, which is really close to us. So 3 is LNC machine. And then we go to the wharf. So let's go to 3. Let's go back to 3. And let's see where 3 is. All you got to do is click the 16th of a mile map. And 3's up here, so just off our property. Our property goes kind of like right about there, down to about here. So really pretty interesting stuff, right? Let's go back to the quarter of a mile map. And let's also look at 6 and 7. Because I think we're going to find something else. And here's what I was looking at. So we got 6 is Shepherd Plating Company. That's a big concern. Now it's 4 feet lower, so whatever spill it had, it's going to go straight into the river, right? Right here. But if it's right up alongside this road, which we're going to find out from other historical information, plating companies used a lot of volatile organic chemicals. And because of those volatile organic chemicals being released into the environment, it's very possible that those volatile organic chemicals can come on our property and create a vapor intrusion. So you're going to want to make a note of that. Now remember, this time I don't have enough time to go through and identify all the concerns and everything you should find in this. We're just trying to show you how easy it is to use our things, how easy to find it. And you should, as an environmental professional, probably know most of this stuff. But if you ever have problems interpreting something or wanting an opinion on something, or if you an opinion on whether it could affect your site, just, send me a copy of the report, tell me what you're looking at, give me a call, and I'll go ahead and answer your questions and help you out. It's no big deal. So one of the things none of our competitors have, and is really important in my book, is all database companies map everything by lat long. They find the lat long by running mapping programs that map based on address. A lot of the data we get has inaccurate addresses and have agency lat longs provided. The reason people don't use agency lat longs 9 out of 10 times, those lat longs are inaccurate. Either because they're 10, 20 years old and the technology's increased, or 1 out of 10 times, it could be where the spill actually was on a big property, like in the South 40, like an underground storage tank or a spill or whatever. And that's when it's important to you. So any of these agency differences, the only ones that are going to be important to you are if they're close to you. And you already got a lot of listings on that adjacent site number 2. But look at 113 moved up really close to you. And that could be a concern. So what is 113? Now, for some reason, we cut the details off on this on purpose. But let's do, no, we didn't do 113. In any case, the point being is that could be a problem and you're going to want to look into it. And we can probably give it to you if you let us know. But it relates to another site. So here's the summary of differences. So let's go down. And it's shepherd plating. So if you notice that the lat long provided by the agency, and this is really interesting when you think about it, is right by our property line, almost on our property, which makes a lot of sense. So we really want to keep an eye out for that. So the lat long for the shepherd plating list we had down here is a little different. Let's go to that 1/16 of a mile map again. Let's shrink this a little bit. And you can see 6 is right here. Well, the lat long they give us is really right about up here on 17. So we got to really keep an eye out for shepherd plating on other properties and see if it's immediately adjacent to our property. Any questions so far? Everybody can hear? Things going good? Sweet. Okay, so that's the basics of a RecCheck report. There's tons and tons of other things we can go over and talk about, but to get around the report, use the report, get the details, all that's really easy. You can get this report in a Word format, so you can cut and paste anything into your report. Or if you get it, excuse me, in our report writing template, which we can alter for you and make it like your report writing template, excuse me. A lot of stuff is already shot into that report writing template. So our products are simple, easy, quick to use, and have all the information you need. So if there isn't any questions, I'm going to move on to, let's see. I'm going to move on to aerial photos. So again, this is our standard aerial photo. We have a premium upgrade that's in beta testing right now that for $20 more, we provide, instead of a photo a decade, we provide a photo every 5 years if we can find one. And every time the property changed, we try to provide a photo on either side of that change, the change and before it changed, for the subject site and immediately adjacent site. Some people really like that. That's a $20 upcharge. It's really a bargain for what you get. But in most cases, and most properties, you probably don't need that kind of detail. But there are some cases where you do. And then some people just love having all that data. So I just assume not have all that data sometimes. So let's shrink this down a little bit. Let's go to, this is our standard report. There's nothing to look at there. But I want you to note, when we have a parcel map, we put an actual parcel map over the aerial photo so you can see exactly where your site is. In this case, it's very important. Let me show you why it's very important to have a parcel map. There's multiple parcels make up this site. And without that, it'd be very hard to tell that you're on the right site. That is our actual site. So right away, you're starting to interpret this aerial photo, but the parcel map overlay, or sometimes we put a big red square, help you find your site quickly and fast. Some of our competitors supply a light box where they've overlain all the images and fire insurance maps and all. That gets to be complicated. You got to click around, you got to adjust them. Why waste the time? Review that aerial photo and be done. So what do you have adjacent? That's what you're looking for. Here's that number 2 site. You know it's manufacturing. You can make a note of that. You don't have shepherd plating over here yet. So you've got to look for that. So those are the kinds of things you're looking for. Now, some people look for staining, other things. Very hard to tell, especially on a cluttered property like this. I can't tell any staining here. I don't know how anybody could. You can zoom in pretty far on our aerial photos before they get really bad. So let's look. I don't see any staining. If there's some real heavy staining, you might see it here. I don't see it adjacent. I don't see it anywhere. But those are things to look for. But our aerial photos are really easy to use, quick. Here's the same site. Same site. Let's go to where something changed. So the site is no longer a boat sales or whatever. But what you're starting to see now is there's a building here you didn't have before. There's a building here you didn't have before. But with the parcel map, you can really quickly see that your property, where it is and what it has on it. So that's really important. You still got the adjacent manufacturing, but now you got, looks like a bunch of residences or stores over here. But what do you have here? What is that? That's interesting. I think that's, oh, look at here. There's our plating. So our plating is exactly immediately adjacent to our subject property. And that is definitely a concern. And remember, because of the parcel map and multiple parcels, we can tell it's immediately adjacent to our property. Very important when you're writing the phase 1 and doing things. So let's go down to all the way down to the topo maps. Now, topo maps, we only put a red square, but look, we have the plating facility right here. Red is just housing or commercial. So that's why we don't have a red square. But here we have a red square for a building. So right now, USGS maps don't tell you a whole lot in congested areas. In rural areas, they'll tell you more. But this one right here tells you there's a creek that goes right through your property. Check that out. Isn't that crazy? So obviously that creek was covered up, and a storm drain or something was put in, not a culvert because we didn't see it in the surface. But what they don't take out is the gravel beds left by old creeks. And so they become conduits for contaminants from adjacent property. Remember, we've had manufacturing over here for life. So that's how you interpret these things. They're easy to use. They're quick to get around. It's just no big deal. This one goes back all the way to 1892. That's pretty cool. Any questions on Ariel's topos? If not, I'm going to do fire insurance maps. Now, fire insurance maps, we don't provide the whole entire map. You don't need it. We only took a small little portion of it. Could be from a bunch of different fire insurance map companies. Again, we try to, if we have a parcel map, we put the parcel map around it, or we put a red square around it. We right up front list what years we have. We go back to 1887. We didn't look at any years that didn't cover your site. We got all coverage. That's pretty good. Right away, you can see we started 69, 59. Let's look at this 51 a little closer. There's a million things we can learn on fire insurance maps. But again, what is the important thing here? Again, we see all our parcels. I guess I got to click on this. We see all our parcels in our exact outline of our subject property because of the parcel map. Right away, we can find out what this building is here we are concerned about. We don't have our plating over here, so it wasn't there. It may have been there it was, and it says electroplating. See that right here? In 69, but we're getting our timeline for that site, and it isn't here currently. There's a lot we can learn from this, but from these fire insurance maps, look at all the things you can get. So we have green manufacturing, which we knew it was already from the database search. We got above ground storage tank, above ground storage tank, above ground storage tank, whole bunch of Japan tanks and vats. Does anyone know what a Japan tank is? Go ahead and send me a chat. We have machine shop up here. And this is the site that has an open case. And we know everything flows this way, right? Right onto our site. And we have an underground conduit. So potential vapor intrusion is a big thing on our site. Keep that in mind. So let's go look at a couple older ones. And let's zoom out a little bit. And what do we have here? So remember, we've got the parcel map overlaid again. Goes like this. Our site goes like this. And then goes like this and goes up. So we have a spur line that goes onto our site. Look at this. Railroad spur line. We're now a lumber company. We still have green manufacturing. We have a lot of outbuildings. We have this. I don't know what this is. That's interesting. That may be that creek. I got a feeling it's going to come up somewhere else. Right here, we've got lumber here. We have nothing else. Let's go older. What year is this? This is 08. Let's go to 84, the oldest one. So again, we still have lumber, West Shore lumber. But what I really wanted to show you was this creek. Man, that isn't concerning. And now it's not Green Manufacturing. It's Platts and Sons Leather Company. So they have tanning and tannery and all that stuff is heavy duty materials. And here you can see they have a little bridge across this creek. They've got bridges across this creek. And this is the major one that runs onto our site and right down to there and is now underground. There could be contamination. This would be a wreck for potential volatile organic chemicals, which is a wreck, and potential groundwater contamination and soil contamination from that site. Remember, we already know there's open cases. They used hazardous materials. They've been manufacturing forever. This is in late 1800s. Big stuff. All this is just nothing. Pretty much this is nothing because it's so much lower than our site. Only that one plating industry would be causing us heartburn, right? So how's everybody doing? Okay, that's it. The fire insurance maps. There's tons of things to learn. A parcel map, when you have a multi-parcel property, provide us with a parcel map because it'll really help you. And we'll put them over your images for you. That's what we do to help people. For some reason, this 87's out of order. I wanted to show you one other thing. There was another spur line for a short period of time that went onto the site. Now, fire insurance maps really are only useful in old downtown areas or old cities. If you get out into the rural area, there won't be fire insurance maps. So only about 10% of the time is there fire insurance maps. But when you can get fire insurance maps, they're great. We get all our fire insurance maps from the Library of Congress for the most part, but a lot of times you can get them locally too. Your local Maine library, Maine County Library may have them. Sometimes in a major city, the engineering department or some other department in your city hall will have the fire insurance maps because they use them to look up what used to be there before. So check your libraries, check that. You don't always have to buy them from us, or you might be able to supplement them for us because they are good information when they're available. They're not the catch-all of everything, but they're pretty doggone good. City directories pretty much fill up everything. So really what you can do is a fire insurance map. You can get the address range from the fire insurance map that you want to look at. So on Douglas, before you move to city directories, you want to go from about 918, excuse me, to it looks like 1028. And on Erie Street, which is your subject property address, you want to go from, you probably want to go all the way down here, 922, because we really want to find out what's been here all the time. 922 all the way up to 1018, which is just off-site. So now we've got our address range we want to look for in the city directories. So if you don't have any questions on fire insurance maps and how easy it is to get around, let's go to city directories really quick. Now, city directories can come in a couple different forms. We can provide a list form. It's a premium update. It comes in Word format so you can cut and paste stuff. Or we provide you just copies of the pages like this. Some people prefer this so they can do their own interpretation. Other people like this. We got a whole lot of city directories. This is all the years of city directories we got. And right away it tells you what sites we researched, Erie Street and Douglas Avenue. So let's go ahead and do a fairly recent one. And let's see, this will be Erie Street. And we've got to find Erie Street. And so right here you have Erie Street. And right away you see 930 Yard Arm Bar and Grill. So that building and that kind of cutout on the bottom southeast corner of our property has been a bar and grill. It goes up, so it's going from south to north, and it's got Racing Riverside Marine Inc. And that's our boat sales. And then Dodge intersects, and that's all we get. Now, it isn't under our control what the directory companies listed or did. They used to send out postcards, and if people didn't reply, they just didn't put the address in the range. The real key is you just need the block that your site's on, and you can see if your site's listed or not. Sometimes it will be, sometimes it won't. Now remember, we went all the way to 1028, which is just off our site in the northeast corner, and we've got a residence. When it just says a person's name, that's 99 out of 100% of the time a residence. Let's go ahead and look at Douglas Avenue. So here we go, Douglas Avenue. And again, we didn't get much listing this time. We have a residence that's a little bit off our site. And it's kind of just north of our northwest corner. But that's all we really see because Prospect is the cross street. So the way to review city directories is if you know your cross streets, it's really helpful. So we didn't get a lot of information on Douglas Avenue here. So let's jump down a couple years and let's go all the way to 79. Let's start with Erie Street. And every year and every different type of book is going to give you different information. So here's Erie Street, and we go from State Street right on up, and we got a lot of information. So right now, we've got printing contractor. We got the boat storage wharf. Remember, they had a listing on there. We have Shepherd Plating. It's the odd, we're even. On the even, we have Hudson Don Inc. Body Shop, and we have Hudson Don Inc. Wholesale. Interesting. That's what's on our site. It's not marine. And this is in 79. And if it is marine, they didn't respond. But look at the information we've got, things that could be a concern to our site. Now, obviously, a body shop's a concern. Why is a body shop a concern? They use volatile organic chemicals, paint thinners, all kinds of stuff. Okay, let's do Douglas Avenue. So see the things you're kind of picking up and you're getting? Cross streets are important. Now, we've got Breeze Towing Service, big deal, but we have Green Manufacturing, metal stamping, 1028. Pretty cool. Now we've got verification of green manufacturing. Let's go really old, because we got a lot of directories here. Let's go all the way to 1920. So here's Erie Street. 1920, our site, Carroll Coal and West Shore Lumber is across the street. We know that's also on our site because we saw that in the fire insurance maps. This is our site, sash and doors. And then we have residences just off our site. Not a big deal. So you're building history and you're also building sites based on usage that could be a concern to your site. So Douglas Avenue now, remember I said all those residences were there, restaurant, soft drinks, all the way to green manufacturing. Look at the range of green manufacturing and Christian Machine Company. And then we have a barber right adjacent to them. Pretty cool. You get great information in city directories. And a lot of times city directories for sure can take the place of fire insurance maps. And they're actually easier and quicker to review because you're looking at a block, an address range. So that's pretty much it. That's our main tools for history and finding sites that can build recs, and you build facts from them to build recs. I mean, this site would definitely have an adjacent site rec, on-site rec for vapor intrusion potential, groundwater contamination, soil contamination from a bunch of different sources. And so you'd probably end up with at least 3 recs on this site. Remember, according to ASTM standards, a rec can be that you know there is contamination on site, or there's the potential for contamination on site, and that's a rec. So potential vapor intrusion is a rec. You just have to build a case of why it is, of all these facts, just like a private investigator. So that's it for today. Does anybody have any questions? Anything they want to talk about? Anything they want to know anything more about? If not, I'm probably going to end the webinar. It is recorded if you want other people to watch it. If you want more detail, I can go over any report with you directly if you're one of our clients. And I'd love to do that. So any questions, any concerns, anything? I think that's about it. Okay. No, we don't do environmental impact assessments. We do provide a lot of the data, and you can buy the extra maps. Fish and wildlife, flood maps, wetlands, all those kinds of things. We do provide those extra maps for an additional charge, but we don't do an environmental impact assessment report. That really has to be written by an environmental professional. And I don't know anyone who does provide that other than an environmental consulting company. So, do you, Elijah, know of anybody? No, I don't think so. That's something that's got to be written. An environmental consultant, I could, not off the top of my head, no, because, most of our clients, we don't know all the services they provide. So, but you could surely call your local area environmental consultants and talk to them and see who does a environmental impact assessment. And where do you get, who's requiring an environmental impact assessment? Is it just another name for a phase one, or something somebody sold somebody, or what's going on? You're welcome, Elijah. Okay, well, thank you very much, everybody, and have a wonderful day.